Hello everyone, I'm Ula Jacobs. Welcome to my channel, and today I'd like to speak about the law of attraction and everything being energy. What's with the law of attraction is that we are creating a resonance that's seeking itself in compatibility. We basically get what we emit, and you're probably wondering how, and the how of that is via our thoughts and our belief systems, and these are setting up and creating a frequency that is looking to replicate itself and join with other similar frequencies. It's basically like attracting like. And I'd like to just do an experiment here with basic poster paints to illustrate how this may or may not work. And I'll show you how it doesn't work. Which I don't usually do, but hey, this is important to understand the workings of this law. So we'll begin with a nice yellow tempera, and this is your glass of infinite possibilities. And if you want to charge that now with whatever that you're looking to create, please do so. I'm going to put this aside and do another one with exactly the same infinite possibilities of what the law of attraction should be bringing us. And then I'm going to show you how this gets askew. First of all, I'm going to use the red, yellow, and blue primary colors. That's all that's needed here. It's just a simple experiment to show you what happens with energy. We now have a second glass of infinite possibilities. And then we charge it, and then a little time goes by, and we say, "Oh, did this not work?" It's impatience comes in basically. Does it not work? Am I doing it wrong? Whatever. So for that impatience, we're going to add a beautiful blue color to this nice yellow. And see what happens right away. Okay, the impatience of that has already interfered with the beautiful yellow color. A little more time goes by and we go, geez, maybe I shouldn't have done this at all. What's the point? Blah, blah, blah. And we'll add another little bit of blue. And out comes a darker green color. It's actually very pretty. It's actually the healing color of Archangel Raphael. And I actually have an aside to that. Maybe I should tell you that before we continue. I was working in my kitchen before lunch one morning, and I was listening to native drumming music, really beautiful music. And it's drawn me because I used to be a Native American, actually a native in the Americas before it was the Americas, way back in the Southwest. And that music has always really grabbed my heart. So I'm listening to this beautiful drumming music, and in the afternoon I went to see a friend of mine for a massage, and she's also very intuitive and did chakra clearing and all that kind of stuff. So we're laying there, I'm laying there, and she's working on my back, and she says, "This is odd." She says, "I'm seeing green hands, green energy around my hands as I'm massaging you." And I said, "Oh, okay, I know what that is. That is Raphael, because I called him in to, I said, please come work with me for healing if that is what you could do for me." And he had brought that green energy in while she was working on my back. And that was kind of cool. And then a little while later, she says, "I hear drumming, native drumming." And she said, "This is really odd. I've not had that before." And I knew right away what that was too, because earlier that morning I'd had that beat going through my energy, and obviously through all of my cells. And interestingly enough, this taught me that these things do not leave immediately. We hold on to some stuff within ourselves. So that to me was really, really interesting. So I got two little things there right there in that one meeting that I kind of thought, okay, Raphael's working with me, which is really, really awesome. I was drawn to that green color, so that was the one that I chose. And then I found out about the drumming, and I thought, hey, cool. But anyway, that was a whole digression here. Sorry. And we'll continue. So, okay, we've got a bunch of impatience that turned that yellow to green. So then a little more time goes by because nothing's happening, and I'll tell you why later. We go to get a little angry and say, well, why did I waste my time? Why should I have bothered with this? It doesn't seem like anything's happening anyway. I'm going to let this go. And then the anger, of course, is going to be depicted by the red. So we'll add the red, and we get a little bit more anger going on there. Wasted my time. Not going to do this anymore. Nothing works here. And done. So, what just happened here? Okay, we started with this, endless possibilities, charged with whatever we were hoping to create, and we got to this. How? By muddying the water, by putting out our own reflective energy of impatience and anger. We turned that beautiful yellow color into this. Now, when you ask yourself, okay, this is what you want to create, and then you get to this, how can these things possibly be coherent in any possible way? I mean, they're just so totally different. It's just never going to happen this way. And that's why, because we muddied the waters. So the whole idea is when you manifest for anything is to just do the yellow in whatever you want to create, and then allow that to stay and not judge any of it and put interference in the middle of it. And interference is actually a quantum physics term that says that if you have opposing forces, they will neutralize each other. So that's what happened, is that there was no way that this was ever going to come as it was requested to come, because it changed forms. It totally, completely changed forms. So this is why a lot of people have problems with manifestation of the law of attraction, because there's no alignment of energy, and it just doesn't work. It won't work. The other considerations about this manifestation is that we cannot manifest abundance from a form of poverty, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. And we also have to be co-creative with the universe. In other words, if we sit home and expect somebody to bring us on a plate what we actually asked for without any kind of a energy input from ourselves, well, that's probably not going to happen. Although I have seen small things do that way, and also the energies are changing so much right now that there is actually instant manifestation available as well, depending on how you can do the energy involvement with it. But the other consideration also is that we are co-creating with the universe. It's kind of like Creator says, we help those that help themselves. You can't just sit back and be a lazy bumpkin and just say, okay, this is going to work for me. Well, no, you have to have some input. And the way you have some input is if, for example, is if you were going to go for a job, you would need to go and find an employer that you want to work for, and then show up. Just show up. And if there's no position available, just keep showing up and saying, hey, here I am. This is my name. This is my contact information. And if you have something, call me. So I know somebody that actually did that. He was always traveling out of province, around the province that we live in, and he got married, and he decided, well, okay, I don't want to travel as much anymore, so I'm going to go for another job. So he decided where he wanted to work, showed up at the department head of what he was working with, and then also showed up at the HR office, and then comparatively, one day one day the other, and he kept showing up all the time. Hi, here I am, just checking in. And this worked for about 2-3 weeks because there was no position available. And then about that time later, a position came available, and the guy that was head of the department where he wanted to work went to HR and said, okay, this is the position here. I want this guy. And because this guy had shown up all the time, he showed that he really wanted to work there and he was willing to put himself out to do so. And then the HR guy said, oh yeah, I know this guy. He's been here too. So they both knew him. And the guy got hired. He got hired for the job. And that was just the way we co-create with the universe. We've got to put in our effort, and then the effort is rewarded if we do it correctly. The other consideration is that if you were looking to get new friends, you couldn't sit at home and not meet anyone. So here again, we need to co-create, and we co-create by going to things like like-minded seminars, group activities like yoga class, dance class, whatever you are interested in. We can go to gyms, to hiking groups, or even to volunteer outfits. And, there you can meet people. And, if you resonate with somebody, strike up a friendship. But again, it has to be a conscious co-creation with the universe. And then that will help to bring that about. There's also a focus needed, which I mentioned earlier. And the focus is where focus goes, energy flows, right? So I've got a story on that as well, which somebody brought something onto himself. And this is a person that I watch every week, and he has an adventure show on YouTube. And he'll take his rig out into the wilds of British Columbia and Alaska and elsewhere. And he'll park the rig and take his bike and then go further afield to where the rig can't go. So after that, he parks the bike and then walks into old mine shafts and, up mountains and into the wilderness more. And every time he left the bike, he'd point his finger at the bike and he'd say, "Don't get stolen." And the first time I heard that, I went, "Oh, that's not what you want to do." Far better would be stay safe, wait for me, stay right here. But he said, "Don't get stolen." And I watched this happen about 3-4 episodes. I watched this happen, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is not great. Fortunately, he was out in the middle of the wilderness, so that wasn't likely to happen there anyway because there was nobody around. But about 5 episodes later, he comes on and he says, "My bike got stolen." And I thought, inevitability, where focus goes, energy flows. So it was not stolen out in the wilderness, it was stolen in a town where he lives. And then because the bike was famous through his show, he has a lot of followers, somebody recognized it when they were in town where it was, and they got onto him, and he actually got his bike back, which is a really good thing, that he was able to connect with that bike again. But that whole thing is just extremely anti-universe to say, "Don't get stolen." It would have been a whole lot better to put that in the positive. And also, I see that a lot of times when I'm watching protests, although it's getting better, so people must be waking up. But a lot of times, if it's anti-war protest, no more war. And okay, where's your focus? It's on war. You're giving energy to war. But the better thing would be to look for peace. Have the sign say, "Let's bring on peace," and then that's your focus then. So the focus is always extremely important, because I have to say it again, where focus goes, energy flows. And then I'd like to say also, I touched on the poverty thing a little earlier, but we can't create wealth from a poverty consciousness. One is not compatible with the other. And the poverty consciousness people will say things like, "I never have any money, I can't afford that, there's just no way that I'll ever be able to own blah, blah, blah," whatever that is. And this is a conscious place where they live. This is surrounding their energy. This is home for them, right? So there's just no way that you're going to create abundance when you're thinking nothing but poverty thoughts. So how can we change this? In a 2006 interview, when I first brought my first book out, Hidden Laws, Ultimate Tools for Divine Co-Creation, somebody asked me that on an interview. They said, how can we possibly uh, have the thought of abundance when we don't have any money? Well, money is not the only abundance, is what I told this person. And go into nature, see as much abundance as you can, leaves, trees, flowers, pebbles on a beach. You know, it's all abundant. The universe is about as abundant as it's ever going to get. And get in touch with that feeling and hold onto that feeling. If you've got a lot of friends, be grateful for all the abundance of the friends. If you've got anything else going on that you have a lot of, this is all your abundance, and you see it and you hold on to it and you live it. And then when you live that, that changes everything around. And I'm going to create another little experiment here with color to just show you how that works. If we are in poverty, we're surrounded by an aura of poverty. And let's pretend that that's gray, and we're emitting gray all the time out into the universe, poverty consciousness. And then say that the wealth consciousness that we'd like to have is green. So that's in the universe already, because the universe is so abundant, it's enough for everyone. And then you say, okay, the green is sitting over here in the universe, and we're emitting the gray over here. And those two things are not going to come together and join in any way, because they're totally and completely different. So we need to get into the green energy and emit that, which is what we do when we change our thoughts to non-abundance and to abundance and non-poverty. The green goes out, and then it draws the green that's in the universe already existing there and brings it to us. And then we have a possibility of claiming that. That's how we claim it, is that we have to first become it in the now present moment, because that's the only time that you can ever do anything, is right in the now moment. When we feel and live in this energy, the gray output disappears and it's replaced by the green abundance, and they find a match. That's as simple as it gets. The universe is abundant. There is no lack. We do not take from another when we receive its blessings. There's enough for everyone to go around. That must be very, very specifically pointed out, because you're not doing harm to anyone when you receive something from the universe. It's blessings that you understand. You know, this is why we come in to body, is to basically create what we want to create here. And to end this segment, I'd like to say, Divine Spirit says, come play with me and watch the magic unfold. It's really, really awesome. Thanks for tuning in, and bye for now.